China thought it had all the cards. A nuclear-armed Iran buying Beijing permanent control over the Strait of Hormuz. Discounted oil flowing in secret, paid in yuan. A strategy decades in the making designed to dethrone the American dollar and make Beijing the center of global power. But here's what nobody in the legacy media is connecting for you. China didn't build a fortress. It ended up building a trap. And President Trump just sprung it on two fronts simultaneously. Make sure to stick with me at the very end of this video because we're going to see how what looks like a crisis is actually the most brilliant grand strategy any American president has executed in modern memory. And there's absolutely nothing Beijing can do to stop it. Hey gang, it's me, Dr. Steve, your Patriot Professor, here to help you make sense of the madness with breaking news and analysis you're not going to get anywhere else. So you know what to do. Make sure to smack that bell and subscribe button. Also, you don't have time to watch the news 24/7. That's my job. Join my Patriot Alerts below, and I'll sift the news for you, send what actually matters, and tell you what it means for you and your family. Click on the link below right now. Let's start with China's moves because Trump isn't the only one trying to play grand strategy chess here. So right now, U.S. intelligence has confirmed that China is actively preparing to deliver air defense systems and shoulder-fired man-pads, those are portable anti-aircraft missile launchers, to Iran, routed through third countries like Pakistan to obscure the origin of the weapons. And that's not all. Separate intelligence reporting reveals Chinese companies have been shipping chemicals, fuel, and dual-use military components directly to Iran to help rebuild the regime's battered military manufacturing capacity. Meanwhile, Beijing's official response to Trump's Hormuz blockade was to call it, quote, dangerous and irresponsible, declaring that they will honor all energy and trade commitments to Tehran and warning Washington against, quote, external interference. Russia's Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov flew to Beijing for emergency talks to coordinate a united front against this blockade, with Moscow calling it, quote, maritime extortion. Trump, for his part, responded by threatening 50% tariffs on any nation found arming Iran, most especially China. So they're arming our enemies, they're running diplomatic interference, they're calling our blockade illegal, and they're doing everything they can to try to thwart our efforts in the Middle East. And yet, what seems to elude Chinese officials, what they have yet to process, is that every single move they just made actually walked them deeper into a trap. So let's make sure we understand how all the pieces are placed on the international chessboard here. China is the world's single largest importer of oil on the planet, bar none. They currently import approximately 10 million barrels per day. And by 2030, they're going to depend on foreign sources for as much as 80% of their total oil consumption. Now, here's the number that should make Beijing wake up in a cold sweat. Roughly 80% of China's oil imports pass through a single narrow waterway, and it's not the Strait of Hormuz. It's the Strait of Malacca. It's a 2-mile wide channel of water between Malaysia and the Indonesian island of Sumatra. Over 90,000 ships squeeze through this artery every single year. And for natural gas, approximately 41% of Chinese imports transit the same choke point. This is what Chinese strategists call, and they coined this term themselves, the Malaca Dilemma. And it goes all the way back to the early 2000s when President Hu Jintao himself identified this as China's chief strategic vulnerability and publicly warned about it in a number of his speeches. He was right to worry because there are 3 nations that control the Strait of Malacca: Malaysia, Singapore, and Indonesia. Now, Singapore is already a rock-solid U.S. ally. Malaysia has been moving closer and closer to Washington's orbit for years. And Indonesia? Well, that's where this story just got very, very interesting. But first, gang, let's face it. You had a number in your head, right? The number you thought would be enough to retire. And then the price of life went up and up and up. And now the question isn't whether you saved, it's whether what you saved can still buy the retirement you plan for. I mean, think about what's happening right now. War flaring up, oil spikes, and then everything gets higher. Gas, groceries, insurance, bills. We've seen this before. We're watching a structural shift in the global economy where inflation isn't temporary. It's embedded. And historically, when that happens, purchasing power doesn't recover. It erodes. Your dollar buys less. Your savings carry less. And people who are counting down to retirement, they start wondering if they got to push it back, all because the cost of living moved the finish line. That was my wake-up call. I knew there had to be something else I could do to protect what I built. So I researched, and that's when I found Augusta Precious Metals. And gang, they taught me things I didn't even know were possible. I had no idea you could move your IRA or 401k into physical gold, tax-free, penalty-free, a real asset that's held its value through war, oil spikes, and market chaos. And that changed everything for me. I've spoken with Augusta's education team. These guys know their stuff, and they explain it so clearly. So here's what I recommend you do right now. Go to turleybuysgold.com or text Turley to 35052 to get Augusta's free gold IRA guide. That's turleybuysgold.com or text Turley to 35052 because the retirement you dreamed of is still possible, but only if you protect it. On Monday, April 13th, while the entire world was watching Hormuz, Secretary of War Pete Hegseth quietly hosted Indonesian Defense Minister Shafri Samsudin in the Pentagon. And what they announced was a major defense cooperation partnership between the United States and Indonesia. The partnership has 3 pillars. 1, military modernization capacity building. 2, training and professional military education, and 3, regional exercises and operational cooperation. And woven into this agreement is Indonesia granting U.S. military aircraft, quote, blanket overflight access across the whole of Indonesian airspace, which includes the southern bank of the Strait of Malacca. U.S. aircraft with overflight rights over Indonesia means that American eyes and American firepower are now positioned directly above the single most critical energy choke point in China's entire global economic architecture. And this is so key. We now have effective control over the most important shipping lane in the world, linking the Indian Ocean to the South China Sea without deploying a single ground troop, without firing a single shot, without triggering a single international incident. Just a handshake at the Pentagon, and suddenly the Malaca Dilemma goes from a theoretical vulnerability to a very real one. It's pure jiu-jitsu. China spent decades worried about the scenario, and Trump made it real while the world wasn't even looking. Now, I want you to connect the dots here because this is where it's absolutely stunning. We now have the United States controlling, or at least able to control, both of the choke points that China's economy completely depends on. Hormuz is locked. China was getting 40% of its Persian Gulf oil through that strait. That tap has effectively been turned off, at least when it comes to Iran. That's 20% of China's oil. Every day the blockade holds is another day China's industrial machine it's running hotter, it's paying more, it's scrambling for alternatives. And then Malacca. That's the other 80%. It is now effectively under American surveillance and strategic influence through our new Indonesian partnership. China's alternatives are pitiful by comparison. In fact, Beijing has been trying to solve the Malaca Dilemma for 20 years. And the answer every time comes back the same. There is no solution. The geography simply doesn't allow it. And now with Indonesia in Washington's corner, that dilemma has become, for China, a strategic nightmare. But remember, this is 5D chess that Trump is playing here. It gets even better because Trump isn't just threatening China's energy supply. He's recalibrating the entire global energy market around the United States. Here's what the maritime tracking data is showing us right now. 172 empty crude oil tankers are currently en route to the Gulf of America, reflecting a tidal wave shift in global crude flows toward the United States as the new stable export anchor for the world. That includes a 132% increase in tanker arrivals via the southern corridor from Asia and the Gulf. The buyers who couldn't get their oil through Hormuz went west. They came to us, American crude, American LNG, American energy. And China, which was getting its discounted sanctioned Iranian oil for pennies on the dollar, paid in yuan, is now being forced in an utterly humiliating way back to U.S. crude and LNG imports, with tracking data showing approximately 600,000 barrels per day of American crude going to China, worth close to $10 billion a month at current prices. We are literally, as a nation, swimming in money right now. It's absolutely extraordinary. Iran was China's back-channel energy pipeline. Cheap, off the books, de-dollarized. That pipeline is gone. And the world is now recalibrating around the Gulf of America. All the while, the other major oil exporters, Saudi Arabia, the UAE, and of course, Venezuela, are now all U.S.-aligned suppliers. All of it transacted in U.S. dollars through U.S.-anchored markets. China wanted de-dollarization. What they got was re-dollarization on steroids. So let's step back and gaze at the complete architecture of what Trump has built here. In this new world order, as it were, in the very dynamics of international relations, America gets increasingly stronger, all the while our adversaries are primed to get increasingly weaker. America gets stronger, our adversaries get weaker. That's the new dynamic that's built into the system, the architecture that Trump is creating. America gets stronger militarily every single day with new partnerships, new forward positions, a carrier strike group dominating Hormuz, and now overflight rights above Malacca. America gets stronger economically every day with global energy demand surging toward U.S. oil, U.S. LNG, U.S. workers, U.S. dollars. And our adversaries at the same time, Iran and China, they get increasingly weaker together. Iran losing its last card in Hormuz, China losing its energy security. Both of them watching the dollar they tried to kill become more essential to the global economy than ever. This is total situational dominance, zero sentimentality, and a relentless refusal to lose. Welcome to the new world of America made great again. Gang, I want to invite you to join me on Saturday, April 18th in Ephrata, Pennsylvania, where I'll be the keynote speaker for Firm Foundations Academy's annual fundraising dinner and silent auction. It's a special night supporting a classically minded Christian school serving families with compassion and excellence. Come enjoy fellowship, a great meal, and an exciting auction, all for a wonderful cause. Scan the QR code to get your ticket, reserve a table, or become a sponsor. I hope to see you there.